good to have you with us here on Leading Edge for this week. I'm Jeff Smith. Welcome in. Hope you had a good week. As we start this new week, we have to backtrack a little bit. Coming up in our second half, we're going to talk with Toledo Mayor Wade Kapszukiewicz, and he's going to give us his state of the city. But first, we want to talk about what Mother Nature seems to do so well this time of the year around Northwest Ohio and southeastern Michigan, and that's do her best impression of a relief pitcher and throw us a major curveball. As you see, thousands affected over the last few weeks by Mother Nature, and this last week, hundreds of thousands around the state of Michigan impacted by, that big old ice storm that we had to deal with. Greg Salisbury joining us from Consumers Energy here via Zoom on Leading Edge. Greg, thanks for taking the time. We very much appreciate it.
Jeff, thanks for having me. Looking forward to catching up a little bit on how this weather has affected us.
Absolutely. And we are taping on Thursday, airing on Sunday. We wanted to bring people up to speed. And as we tape here today on this Thursday, I know there's been a bit of good news, although it took a while to get to that point. But we understand that things are looking really good as far as those outages are concerned here on Thursday.
They sure are, Jeff. I'm really happy to be able to report that the lights are on across the southern tier of counties in Michigan after this incredible ice storm, which we believe, when the final numbers are in, will be the second or third largest ice storm in the company's 130-year history, and also a top 5 storm of any kind.
When you say largest, Greg, let's kind of get our viewers up to speed. Are you saying that as far as impact, or are you saying that as far as how much square footage we're talking, square miles we're talking, as far as who was affected?
So we talk about that in terms of customers affected. So the 2 waves of ice that hit Michigan were over 400,000 customers. The first wave that really hit southern Michigan the hardest was over 280,000 customers. And while we're happy to report that we're fully restored in the south, we apologize that it took so long, and we have people already beginning to analyze what we need to do to our electric grid to make it stronger and smarter across southern Michigan, so that whatever Mother Nature throws at us in the future, we perform better.
Greg, I know that social media is a curse and it's a blessing sometimes, but there were a number of posts over the last 7 days or so from people saying, how is it that a state like Florida goes through a devastating hurricane and can get people up and running in 3-4 days? And you look at a situation like this, you guys had crews coming by the droves across state lines in order to help out. Why was this one so challenging?
So ice is uniquely challenging because of all the damage it does, not just to the lines and the electric poles and cross arms, but also to all the trees. And we love our trees in northern Ohio and southern Michigan, but we saw just a tremendous amount of tree limbs falling, trees falling, which then do damage to conductors and break poles. And the problem with ice is, after it happens, it's really hard to start restoring power safely when everything's covered in ice and the roads are covered in ice. And then as the ice melts, all those tree limbs that came down and broke things going down pop back up, and they break things going up. So ice is uniquely difficult.
Greg, I'm curious because, as we said, we talked about Mother Nature and the evil deeds she will do sometimes, but we did notice the temperatures go up after the storm hit, yet we still saw a lot of problems. Was that because the weight and the impact was so devastating just when the ice fell and everything froze up initially?
Yeah, absolutely. So the ice gets on the tree limbs, some of the tree limbs break, and those do the damage they do. Some of the tree limbs sag and do damage, and then they pop back up and they do more damage. And then we had those heavy rains for the nights after the ice, and we had crews who went out to restore power and found rivers where there used to be creeks and lakes where there used to be fields. So it was a very challenging restoration for our crews. Just getting down the roads with all the limbs down was a challenge sometimes. And we moved in amphibious equipment and tracked vehicles to be able to get in the muddy areas and restore power to everybody out in those areas.
Greg, a couple more things I want to cover with you here today. I want to talk about the rebates that you guys have offered to people who were affected by this. But first, I want to talk about Lenawee and Hillsdale County specifically. Night after night after night, Greg, we continue to report 80% of Hillsdale, 80% of Hillsdale County, 80% of Hillsdale County. Why was it such a challenge there?
So Hillsdale County had over 77,000 customers out, and Lenawee peaked at over 47,000. So that was 125,000-ish people. Almost half of that first ice storm was in Hillsdale and Lenawee. Just a tremendous amount of damage to be able to restore the backbone circuits and then all the laterals and all the individual services was a tremendous amount of work. We had over 250 crews doing line work on the electric lines and about 45 tree crews with multiple members of each tree crew supporting them. So that was our priority area. We had more resources committed to those two counties than any other two counties in the state. And they were working 16-hour shifts, overlapping around the clock to work through that restoration. Now our outage map will show a whole circuit is out until every single customer is restored. So often there might be 300 out of 350 customers restored for a day or two during these massive restoration activities. Mm-hmm. And so the numbers aren't always quite what they seem, but we work until the last customer is connected. Understood.
And finally, I want to talk to you a little bit about those rebates. How are those working for your customers?
So we have a link through our website to the rebate program. And we also have call center coworkers who are waiting to guide customers through that process.
And what are they eligible for, Greg? And how do you guys put a number on it?
You know, there's a very well-defined process there on the website, and it ends up depending upon how many days they were out, and there's a submission, an evaluation, and a payment process. So each individual customer journey may be a little bit different, but I would encourage people to use the process and we'll get through it and take care of it.
Weather is what it is in the state of Michigan, Greg. It does a number on the roads, obviously, and we're talking power grid problems. If you could give our viewers, as we say goodbye today, give our viewers one main thing that Consumers Energy needs to work on to be better about this in the future, what is it?
We have a $5 billion 5-year plan for a stronger and smarter grid. We will be inspecting and maintaining 25,000 miles of lines every year. We'll be trimming 7,000 miles of trees every year, and we will deliver a stronger and smarter grid.
Greg Salisbury from Consumers Energy joining us, getting us up to speed on the response to the ice storm. Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeff. Take care.
You bet. And stay tuned. We'll have much more coming up with Toledo Mayor Wade Kapszukiewicz right after this. Welcome back. Once again, so glad to have you with us here on Leading Edge. Welcoming in Toledo Mayor Wade Kapszukiewicz for our next segment here. And I wanted to bring you on here today to kind of give us an update on the state of the city. I know the state of the city will come up eventually, but yeah. I want to give a little taster for our viewers here. First and foremost, good to see you. State of the city is, finish that sentence for me.
The state of the city is, first of all, going to be on March 29th. So I don't know that we've announced that. So you should have a breaking news scroll
right at the bottom. Right?
Wednesday, I think if that's the last Wednesday in March, that's when we're going to give the presentation and have the speech. We're going to have it at the Frederick Douglass Community Center.
Fantastic.
For a lot of reasons. But the state of the city is, it's good. It's good. It's a city that's making some progress. I do believe we're taking, 2 steps forward for every step back. We take. We continue to win awards for our economic development, 6 straight years in the top 10, not just Ohio, in the nation for economic development, fixing more miles of road than ever before. What the metro parks are doing along the riverfront is pumping some excitement into everyone's chest.
But
that's good.
What gives you hesitation?
Yeah, that's right. I was going to make the transition to the negative anyhow. The step back would be what we're seeing, across the country, but here in Toledo on gun violence. Not necessarily crime across the board. I think a lot of people would be surprised to learn this. Our crime numbers are down. I mean, just about every category of crime is down except one.
Perception, though, is not that it is, right?
Well, that's certainly the case. Perception is that, you know, we have a problem with gun violence, and the reality is we have a problem with gun violence. I think what is important to emphasize, though, is that, you know, we have seen some baby steps of progress. You know, last year our numbers were better than the year before. This year, I know it's only early March, but you know, the pace is a little better than last year. So if we can continue to see improvement, you know, I think that's what we all want. Goodness knows, you know, we don't want any terrible events to happen in our city, but I'm encouraged by some of the progress we're making. Some of the numbers are a little better than they were. You know, just to show you the difference between, you know, academics and reality, I think it's the Justice Department just came out with a list 10 days ago of the 50 most violent cities, some metric of violent crime. Toledo wasn't even on the list. Yeah. But good luck explaining that to someone who doesn't feel safe in their neighborhood. Right. So it's a mix.
I want to talk more about that here in just a little bit. We'll revisit, and I promise our viewers will revisit it. I want to dive in a little bit of city government.
Sure.
Let's talk about city council, the relationship there. And I know we've been out at events. You were here a couple of weeks ago for our ribbon cutting of our new newsroom here. And I said, how are things? You said, well, it depends on which city council member you ask.
No, I think if I do remember saying that, that's probably just more my sense of humor than anything else.
Which we appreciate.
Yeah, you know, and I think the Greeks invented democracy about 3,000 years ago. So I think for 3,000 years there's been a natural tension between the executive branch and the legislative branch. But the fact of the matter is, we have a great relationship. I truly. You know, and now I've been around long enough to be able to
you say that unequivocally.
Yeah. I don't.
A good working relationship is what we're looking at?
Absolutely.
Okay.
92% of all the ordinances that we pass every year pass unanimously. Yeah. That's a kind of consensus you don't have in government often. Now, what you're probably alluding to is the issue late last fall around the city auditor, where things got a little sideways. The way I look at it is this. I think if I add it up quickly in my head, I've been mayor for 63 months. And in 62 of those 63 months, I believe we've had the best relationship with city council in the strong mayor form of government. And I was on city council 24 years, so now 1 month was a little awkward, but I don't know what 62/63 is, but I'll take that percentage.
That's a good marriage, right?
And speaking of marriage, that's a great point. I don't always agree with my wife, and heck, I actually love her. Mm-hmm. So you're not always going to get along, but we have a strong relationship, and
everybody's got the same team name on the front of their jersey.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
Issue 21, was that also one of those sticking points? And will that be revisited? Will that be something that Toledo voters will see down the road, you think?
You'll have to refresh. Issue 21 was
when we looked at the ballot, and there was it
was the roads.
The roads, the third term, all of that stuff.
Yeah, I think when you look back on that issue, the problem with that issue is that there were just too many things jammed together. Frankly, that darn thing almost passed. I think it was, 52-48? Mm-hmm. The fact that thing came so close to passing, despite its flaws, shows that there really is a hunger to make sure that our unimproved roads are being fixed. I mean, there really is some foolishness to the fact that we have to print 500 hard copies of the budget every year and take them to the library. I think we do need to become more efficient. The mistake was trying to do it all at once. I do think that over the next year or so, I think you'll probably see some of those issues come back in standalone ballot form. Which ones will be up to the Charter Review Committee, but I'm sure the one on roads will come back because that's so crucially important. The other ones, I'm open to it, but I think if it comes back, if not standalone, maybe 2 or 3 related issues. The problem is trying to jam 13 things into the same issue.
It was too much.
Yeah, and it's still almost passed. I mean, that shows you the hunger for some of those reforms. If we separate them out, it could be different.
That's fair. Over the next 2 days, we are taping on Thursday. Over the next 2 days, Thursday, Friday, interviews of the remaining 9 candidates for Toledo Police Chief. What are your thoughts leading up to the fact that you want to make this decision by the end of the month?
Well, we will make this decision by the end of the month. There's no question about that. And earlier I told you that we're going to have our State of the City March 29th. My intent is to
introduce
the chief.
At that event, or
either
before or after?
That week, maybe at the event, maybe in the days leading up to it. That's still, we got to be flexible enough to adapt to events. But we'll meet that deadline. My first reaction going through the process, this interviewing process, is we got a good list. I mean, there are some really talented people.
Is it important to have an internal candidate?
Well, I think it's important to cast a wide net and to look for the best. Now, the best could be someone right now who's living in West Toledo, or it could be someone who's living in West Virginia. But don't we owe it to ourselves to look for all of our options? There are advantages to being an internal candidate. You know the city, you know the zeitgeist of the department, you know how the town works. There are real benefits, and actually, in the history of the Toledo Police Department, in almost every case, the chief has been promoted from within. But I do think there's some value in taking a look to the outside to see if there was new ideas or fresh perspectives. I think you need a balance. And so that's how we decided to approach this. Our final candidates indeed are a mix of inside and outside candidates, and each one of them I know could do a great job as chief. We're getting to the point of selecting one. I'm excited that we've had so much community input, these interviews that we're doing.
To the city. Yeah.
Well, we have 70 people who are participating, community leaders, pastors, civil rights folks, police union, all of them providing their opinion. We need someone who knows the job, someone who can lead, someone who understands that there's a community role here. At the end of the day, I will pick the best person. There's no criteria more important than that. Got to pick the best person.
And Wade Kapszukiewicz is going to join us on the other side, have a little more conversation. State of the City here on Leading Edge right after this. Toledo Mayor Wade Kapszukiewicz once again with us here on Leading Edge. Let's jump right into, we promised we'd get back to this for our viewers, but just this past week, you've got suburban mayors who come together, and you've already got a contingent of former mayors. Everybody thinks they have the right solution to our violence issue. I wonder your reaction to not only the interest, but, and I will also piggyback on something that happened in Maumee, and the mayor there, Rich Carr, taking issue with landlords, saying that he wants blighted properties fixed up, so much so the city is upsetting the entire Northwest Ohio Realtors Association in doing so, but doesn't want the riffraff, quote unquote, coming across the city lines from Toledo. So there is that perception, right? We talked about perception being reality. Your reaction to all these people coming together and saying, we've got the right fix?
Well, to be honest, I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled that there is so much interest and excitement in trying to solve a problem.
Is your tongue planted firmly in your cheek when you say that?
No, here's the reality is there is no simple solution to this. And I think those former mayors know that. I think they do, or if there's 8 of them, 7/8 of them do. But if there was an easy solution, someone would have come up with it. Because again, this isn't just happening in Toledo. I'm sure the mayor of Chicago wishes she could come up with a solution to violent crime. Maybe she wouldn't have been defeated last week for re-election.
Right.
There is no magic solution, or someone would have come up with it. And the ideas that these mayors have come up with are wonderful ideas. They're not new. They're ideas that have already been in place for years, that we're already doing and we're going to continue to do. And so you might say, well, then their effort is wasted. What are they doing this for?
Right.
I don't look at it that way. I look at...
They're civically engaged. They're civically inclined, right?
A worse problem to have as a community would be apathy.
Yep.
Would be people care so little that they don't want to engage. This is, I hope that there's 50 more mayors from, Cardi can bring in mayors from Kansas and Alaska for all I care, and the more the merrier. The more the merrier. We need all the help we can get. It's okay.
Let me ask you this, because one of the complaints about Toledo is that it doesn't put enough stock in what's already here. Entrepreneurship, companies that could fix problems. Cities United, an outside organization being brought in, you want to kick the tires on it a little bit. I understand that, but there's also money that goes into this if you go with them. Why bring in an outside organization to fix Toledo?
No, see, I think that's a little bit of the misunderstanding of what Cities United is. Cynically, I could joust back at you and say, Toledoans can solve their own problems. What do we need the mayor of Maumee telling us how to solve our problems? But I don't look at it that way because I know that the mayor of Maumee isn't coming in with answers. He just wants to help. That's all Cities United is doing. Now, I think there are some actors on the stage who deliberately don't want to understand that. We have plenty of people in Toledo who have the ideas, who have the energy and passion to solve this problem. We don't need outside help from anyone, though if Cardi wants to bring in the mayor of Maumee, I'm happy to have him at the table. What Cities United is an organization that has worked with 130 cities around the country. Every one of those cities has seen their police budgets go up. So whatever this isn't some sort of backdoor defund the police operation. No, police budgets go up with this group. But they've worked with enough cities that they have a sense of how to connect the dots. We have the pieces in place right here in Toledo, and that mayor's group is part of our network. I'm glad it exists, I really am. What I don't know that we're doing well in Toledo is talking to one another. I don't know if the right hand is talking to the left hand. So what goes in to this issue? What's going on here? I think there's a mental health component. There is a policing component. Right. What about the schools? What about, does this young person have a family who loves him? Does he have access to nutritious food? All of those things are important, and we have people doing all those things, but they're working in silos. Cities United can help us work together. That's all it is. Anyone who says otherwise is doing a little grandstanding.
Mayor, thank you. Stay right there. A final word right after this. The biggest to-do item for 2023 is
to continue to see gun violence go down. It's gone down a little bit in the last year and a half. Needs to go down more this year. I'm encouraged by some of our early signs. It's got to continue. We're also going to have a big, shiny new thing start this year. I'm really excited about a brand new YMCA in the Central City.
Absolute. Wayman Palmer, that is the one. Wade, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time here on Leading Edge.